What if the person you trusted most with your child was the very person you feared losing? And what if the only one who could heal your child's broken heart came from a world you never really saw? This is the story of a millionaire widower, a Latina nanny, and the little girl who needed them both. Eric Davenport hadn't planned to follow her. He hadn't planned anything since the day his wife died, if he was honest with himself. Plans, after all, had failed him before. But here he was, leaving the mirrored glass towers of his corporate empire behind, following the young woman who had quietly become the only thing tethering his daughter to the world. Bella Morales walked briskly down the cracked sidewalk, head down, one hand clutching the strap of her purse. She had the air of someone who'd learned to keep moving, to take up as little space as possible, to never draw the wrong kind of attention. Even after a day caring for Luna, a child who clung to her as if she were a lifeline, Bella still carried the heavy knowledge that in most people's eyes, she was nothing more than help. The wind stung against her cheeks as she crossed the avenue, barely making the walk signal. Eric watched from a safe distance, noticing how the others on the sidewalk regarded her, or rather, didn't regard her at all. A security guard stepped closer as she passed, eyes narrowing in suspicion, then turned away as soon as he saw her clothes were clean, if unremarkable. A delivery worker nearly bumped her shoulder without apology. Bella did not protest. She never did. She just kept moving. Eric felt something twist in his chest. He had never truly seen this before. In his world, doors opened. People deferred. Smiles were easy, even if they were false. Watching Bella now, he saw the quiet armor she wore, forged by years of being judged, dismissed, and left in the margins. He realized with a faint ache that he had contributed to it too, unintentionally, by keeping her on the payroll yet always distant, always formal, always separate. Bella turned onto a narrower street lined with faded brick apartments. She lived here, a far cry from his penthouse overlooking the lake. The neighborhood felt raw, real. Children's chalk drawings were half-washed from last week's rain. Someone's radio played soft Spanish ballads through a window. Eric kept his distance, not wanting to frighten her. But he had to talk to her tonight. Had to understand why Luna refused to let go of Bella, why his daughter screamed when anyone else tried to comfort her. Why he, her own father, could barely break through. Bella's feet were tired. They always were after 12 hours on her feet, picking up toys, cooking tiny meals, soothing a grieving child who cried for her mother in broken, gasping sobs. And yet, it was a different exhaustion that weighed her down tonight, the one that came from being invisible. From knowing that no matter how hard she worked, some people would only ever see a brown girl with an accent, fit for cleaning and comforting, but not for respect. Not for dignity. That day, a guest in Eric's spotless, echoing home had looked her up and down as if appraising a chipped vase. "You're the nanny?" the woman had asked, voice thin with disbelief. Bella had smiled politely, but the question had burned all the same. What she wanted to say was, "I am a teacher, a sister, a daughter, a friend. I am more than what you see." But she swallowed it, because experience had taught her that no one really wanted her answer. As she reached her building, a rust-red rectangle of brick with a crooked mailbox, Bella paused. There, in the faint glow of the street lamp, stood Eric. Expensive coat, perfect posture, out of place against the sagging stoop. His presence startled her, then set off a quiet alarm. Men with power did not follow you home without a reason, and reasons rarely favored women like her. "Mr. Davenport," she asked carefully, hugging her purse closer. "Is Luna okay?" He took a breath, voice low and uneasy. "She's safe. I just needed to talk." Bella searched his face for clues. This was a man who had lost so much, and yet seemed so completely in control of everything else. His eyes looked hollow, sleepless, worn thin. It pulled at a part of her heart she tried to guard, the place that still believed people could be good. "Talk?" she repeated. "Here." He nodded. "Please." She hesitated, then stepped to the side, unlocking the chipped front door. Okay. You can come up for a minute. It's not much, but... He followed, his shoes echoing up the narrow stairs. Bella's apartment was small, 2 rooms, threadbare curtains, and a tiny kitchen where a half-filled coffee pot sat waiting. It smelled of cinnamon and something sweet, maybe the pan dulce she kept on hand for long nights. Eric stood awkwardly by the doorway, taking in the place. It was warm, lived in, nothing like his sterile, gleaming condo. Sit, Bella offered, pulling out a second chair. She sat opposite, hands folded tightly. Eric cleared his throat. Luna, she's shutting me out. I try, Bella. I try every night to hold her, to tell her I'm here. But she screams if I even pick her up. You're the only one she lets close. Bella swallowed hard. She's hurting. And she's scared. So am I, Eric admitted, the words raw, as if torn from him. Every day I'm terrified I'm losing her. That I already lost her the day her mother died. And then I see you, you can calm her, you can make her laugh. I need to understand. What are you doing that I can't? Bella let out a long, measured breath. She looked down at her hands, where faint scars from kitchen work showed pale against her skin. I think, she began softly, it's not what I do. It's what I am. Eric frowned, puzzled. What you are? A survivor, she said, voice nearly breaking. Someone who knows what it is to be small, to be afraid, to lose everything. Luna feels that in me. Maybe that's why she trusts me. The silence stretched between them, heavy with truth neither of them wanted to name. Eric studied her, really studied her, and saw the pain she carried beneath her calm. It was the same pain that had made Luna cling to her in the night, that had made Bella stand between the child and the world like a quiet, unwavering shield. Bella shifted in her chair, feeling the knot in her chest tighten. She had been judged her whole life, for her name, her skin, her accent, her place in the world. Even now, Eric's presence in her tiny home felt like a test. Would he see her only as the help? Would he see how the world tried to grind her down, tried to make her believe she was nothing more than a pair of patient hands? I know how people look at me, Bella continued, surprising herself with how much she let out. They see a nanny. Maybe they see a poor girl. They don't see my family, how my mama worked 2 jobs, how my dad died too soon. They don't see how I help my little brother with homework at night. How I send money back to my aunt. They just see what they want. Eric opened his mouth, but no words came. Bella stood, needing to move. She crossed to the window, peering out over the street below. The city's noise filtered through the thin glass, car horns, distant laughter, a muffled song from a passing car stereo. She felt a tear slip down her cheek, wiped it away before it fell. You followed me here, she said, voice steadier now. Why? Eric rose too, hesitant. Because. I'm failing her, Bella. And I can't fail again. I can't lose Luna. I thought maybe if I watched you, if I saw how you are with her, I could learn. The honesty in his voice cut through her defenses. She turned to face him fully, seeing not a millionaire, but a father. A man drowning in guilt and fear. For the first time, she let down her guard, just a little. Eric, she said gently, you're not failing. You're grieving. Luna is grieving. And she needs to see that in you, not perfection, not control. Just, love. Broken love is still love. He nodded slowly, taking in her words. The weight on his shoulders seemed to ease, if only a fraction. Bella moved closer, lowering her voice. It's okay to be scared. She needs to see that too. Eric's eyes glistened, just for a second. Then he caught himself, shoulders straightening, the armor of a powerful man snapping back into place. Thank you, he said softly. I'm sorry for showing up like this. It's okay, Bella replied. Really? He moved to the door, pausing. I don't know how to do this without you. Her heart squeezed painfully. She wanted to say she would always help Luna, no matter what, but those words felt too dangerous, too close to a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. I'll be there tomorrow, she managed. Like always. Eric nodded once, then left, the door clicking shut behind him. Bella sank into the chair again, shoulders slumping, breathing out a shaking sigh. The quiet of the apartment wrapped around her like a thin blanket, familiar, but never truly warm. She thought of Luna, of the way the child clung to her as if she were the last safe place in the world. And she thought of Eric, powerful yet so very lost. For a moment, Bella closed her eyes, letting the weight of everything settle. The world would never see her the way she wished to be seen. But maybe, just maybe, this little girl did. And that would be enough, for now. She thought helping a child would be enough, but the world kept telling her she would never belong. Now, Bella must decide how far she's willing to go to protect the only person who sees her worth. Rain pelted the apartment windows in an uneven rhythm, washing the city in a curtain of soft gray. Bella stood over the small stove, stirring a pot of lentils, letting the warmth rise around her while her mind spun in 1,000 tangled directions. Sleep had not come easily after Eric left. His words, his raw vulnerability, kept replaying. You're the only one she trusts. That truth should have brought her comfort, instead, it left a stone lodged in her chest. Because she knew what would come next. People like Eric Davenport did not just break their boundaries for no reason. There would be consequences. Whispers. Judgments. And not all of them would come from strangers. She remembered every sidelong glance at the playground, every hushed voice when she'd help Luna climb the slide or wipe her tears. Look at her, so sweet with that child. But the sweetness was never fully innocent. The compliments were laced with the suspicion that Bella was reaching beyond her place. That she might get ideas. As if kindness itself became dangerous when performed by the wrong hands. And deep down, Bella carried a scar that never healed, the way society told women like her to be grateful for any work at all, to keep their heads down, to stay silent. She'd grown up seeing her mother scrub the floors of houses twice as big as their entire apartment, hearing neighbors tell her in Spanish Bendita seas que tienes trabajo, as though mere survival was a blessing. But Bella had dreamed of more. That had always been the secret crime, to want more, to believe she deserved respect as much as any wealthy mother or highborn wife. To believe she could care for children and still keep her own dignity. A sharp rap at her door broke her thoughts. She turned the burner off, wiping her hands on a dish towel, and opened the door. A thin-faced woman in a khaki trench coat stood there, water dripping from her umbrella. Behind her, a badge glinted. Ms. Morales? Bella swallowed hard. Yes. DHS, the woman announced, brisk. We received a call about a possible welfare concern. May I come in? Bella stepped back, the air whooshing out of her lungs. About Luna? The agent's expression softened by a fraction. We just want to ask a few questions. Bella nodded, stepping aside. They think I'm doing something wrong, she thought bitterly. Of course they do. The woman entered, looking around with sharp, practiced eyes. You're her nanny. Yes, Bella answered carefully, hands twisting the dish towel. I've worked for Mr. Davenport since Luna was a baby. The agent made a note on a small pad. We received a report that you may be overstepping your role. That the child is emotionally dependent on you to an unhealthy degree. Bella felt heat rising in her face. She's grieving, she managed. She lost her mother. Of course she's going to cling to the person she feels safe with. The agent paused. Some would say it isn't appropriate for the nanny to be that person. There it was. That word again. Inappropriate. It was never inappropriate for a hired caretaker to cook, to clean, to patch scraped knees. But it was inappropriate to become essential. It was inappropriate to matter. The same double standard, sharpened to a blade. Bella took a shaky breath. Luna is my priority. Her well-being. Nothing else. The agent looked up, meeting Bella's eyes for the first time. I'm not here to accuse you, Ms. Morales. I just have to follow up. Bella nodded, swallowing down the resentment burning through her. Of course you do, she thought. Because women like me are always guilty until proven innocent. The agent left after a brief inspection, promising a follow-up. Bella closed the door behind her, leaning against it, willing herself not to cry. She knew who had made that call. One of Eric's relatives, most likely. Someone who saw Bella's skin, her quiet authority, and decided she must be a threat. She moved back to the stove, but the food tasted like ashes now. Her hands shook as she picked up her spoon. So many people had tried to put her in her place, to remind her where she stood. Her father used to tell her, Mija, no todos quieren vert volar. Not everyone wants to see you fly. And today, she felt the truth of those words like a wound. Later that night, she walked back to Eric's building, holding Luna's favorite plush rabbit in one hand. Her chest was tight with dread, but she knew she had to show up, had to keep the promise she made. The doorman barely looked at her as she passed. Another subtle dismissal. In this building of white stone and glass, she was just the nanny again, interchangeable and unworthy of notice. The elevator felt like a cage as it climbed the floors, each ding of passing levels ratcheting up her nerves. When the doors opened, Eric was waiting, Luna in his arms, but the child was struggling, turning her head away, fighting tears. Bella, Luna cried the moment she saw her. Eric put Luna down, relief flooding his features. I tried, he said, voice breaking. She won't eat, she won't sleep. Bella knelt, arms open. Luna launched herself into her embrace, clinging so hard Bella could barely breathe. The little girl's sobs poured out, soaking Bella's shoulder. For a moment, Bella closed her eyes, letting the child's grief anchor her. She was needed, and it was a dangerous, powerful feeling. Eric sank into the couch, head in his hands. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Bella looked at him over Luna's shoulder. You're not doing anything wrong. She just needs time. And she needs someone who isn't trying so hard to fix everything. Eric raised his eyes, hollow. That's supposed to be me. Bella hesitated. Sometimes it can't be. Not right away. They sat in silence, the storm outside building into thunder. Bella rocked Luna gently, remembering her own childhood storms, when she and her brothers would crowd together on their shared mattress while the world raged outside. She remembered the sting of being told to stay in her lane, to expect nothing, to be grateful for the scraps of kindness she was allowed. She remembered being followed through a store as a teenager, accused of stealing because of her brown skin. She remembered the landlord who had called her just another immigrant when she tried to argue about broken plumbing. All of it was there, in her bones, in her blood, simmering like quiet rage. And yet here she was, nurturing the daughter of a man who came from that world of power, the very world that kept trying to break her. Bella met Eric's eyes. I don't think Luna trusts easily, she said softly. But she trusts me. And I trust you, if you'll let me help. Eric looked away, fighting his own tears. I don't want to fail her. Bella shook her head. Then don't. Let me stand with you. Not just for Luna, but for you too. A long silence passed, broken only by Luna's quiet breathing as she finally slipped into exhausted sleep. Eric nodded, slowly, as if the movement cost him every ounce of pride he had left. Okay, he whispered. Okay. Bella gathered Luna gently and carried her to the child's room, settling her among pink blankets and soft toys. For a moment, she stroked the girl's hair, letting her heart open, even knowing it would cost her. Even knowing that the world would call her too attached, too forward, too bold. even knowing there were people already plotting to tear her down for daring to care. When she stepped back into the living room, Eric had composed himself, though his hands still shook. He looked up at her with a depth of gratitude she almost couldn't bear. "Thank you," he said again, voice raw. Bella nodded, straightening her shoulders. "I'll always be here for Luna. As long as you'll let me." Eric stood, crossing to her. For a second, he seemed about to say more, but he held back. His eyes said enough. There was something in them, a growing respect, maybe even something more, and it terrified her. Because she knew what that could mean. Knew how people would talk, would accuse, would spin stories about the poor nanny stealing a rich man's heart. She turned away before he could see the tears gathering at the corners of her eyes. They were not for him. They were for every time she had been told she did not belong, and for every time she had to keep proving she did. Bella knew that no matter what happened next, the world would not make it easy for her to love, or to be loved, in return. But she also knew that she would never stop trying. They thought she would stay silent, but Bella was done being quiet. When the system failed her once again, she found the courage to stand for what was right, no matter the cost. Morning light spilled over the city, sharpening every flaw in its worn concrete and bent street signs. Bella stepped off the bus carrying Luna's little backpack, her heart already tight with worry. The night before had ended in uneasy calm, but she knew that peace could not last. Rumors spread fast, and the suspicion that clung to her presence in Eric's home was only growing. She passed a poster on a utility pole, fluttering in the breeze, "Missing. 14-year-old girl." A cold tremor ran through her. How many children slipped through cracks, unnoticed, unprotected, until it was too late? And how many of those children looked like her family, brown-skinned and ignored? Bella pushed the thought away, but it lodged in her heart like a stone. At Eric's building, the doorman stiffened as she approached. "They need you upstairs," he muttered, barely meeting her eyes. She took the elevator to the penthouse. Eric was pacing, phone in hand, his voice sharp with frustration. "Yes, I understand, but she's a child. She needs stability." "No, I don't agree with your assessment." He saw Bella and gestured helplessly. "They want to remove Luna from my custody," he said, voice cracking. "They think I'm unfit because she's so attached to you." Bella's stomach turned. "What? They can't." "They can," he interrupted, defeated. "If they decide the environment isn't healthy." Bella swallowed. The irony hit hard, that the very love helping Luna survive was now being twisted into evidence of harm. The system was punishing them for daring to heal in a way that didn't fit the rulebook. A knock at the door pulled them both around. A social worker stepped in, her expression blandly polite. "Mr. Davenport? Ms. Morales? We need to speak." Bella braced herself, nodding. The woman sat, flipping open a folder as if she'd done this 1,000 times. "We have concerns about Luna's attachment patterns. It may be healthier for her to spend time away from Ms. Morales until she learns to bond with her father." Bella felt heat flood her face, a mix of fear and anger. "She's grieving. That's why she clings to me." The social worker barely looked at her. "We understand, but the child's long-term mental health comes first." Eric's fists clenched. "My daughter is safe. She's loved. Isn't that what you're supposed to protect?" The woman sighed, as if tired. "We have to follow guidelines, sir." Bella heard that word again, guidelines. Guidelines that seemed to protect everything but the child herself. Guidelines that left so many kids alone, cycling through strangers' homes, while politicians argued on television. Guidelines that broke families apart because they didn't fit the perfect mold. A sudden surge of defiance rose inside her. "And if she doesn't want to go?" Bella asked. The woman closed the folder, calm and cold. "Then we will make her." The words rang in Bella's head like a gunshot. Luna. Forced away. Another child lost in a system that saw rules before people. Bella's vision blurred, and she fought to stay steady. Not again, she thought. I won't let another child slip away. Luna appeared in the hallway, clutching her bunny, eyes wide with confusion. Bella, she whispered. The social worker rose. Come with me, Luna. No. Luna cried, running to Bella and wrapping her arms tight around her legs. Bella felt the child's heartbeat pounding against her own skin, frantic and terrified. She knelt and cradled her close, trying to steady them both. Eric stepped forward, voice shaking. There has to be another way. The worker hesitated. A supervised transition might be allowed. But Ms. Morales would have to leave the household permanently. Bella froze. Leave. Just hand Luna back to a grief-shattered father and a broken system, and walk away. Her chest clenched painfully. All her life she'd been told to step aside, to let stronger, whiter, richer people decide what was best. And every time she did, a piece of her heart went missing. She stood, looking at Eric. What do you want me to do? His eyes were raw. I want you to stay. But the social worker shook her head. It's not your choice. In that moment, Bella's resentment crystallized into something hard and unshakable. She thought of her mother's sacrifices, of the children in her neighborhood who never made it home, of every moment she'd been asked to apologize for existing. She was done apologizing. Then I'm not leaving, she said, voice calm as steel. And if you try to remove her, I will fight. The social worker's mouth tightened. Ms. Morales, I strongly advise you not to interfere. Advise all you want, Bella said. But I'm not a disposable name on a file. I'm her protector. The tension in the room sparked like a broken wire. The social worker left, promising to return with higher authorities. Eric collapsed onto the couch, face pale. Bella, they'll come back. They could take her. Bella's jaw clenched. Then we'll be ready. An unexpected knock startled them both. Eric opened the door, revealing a neighbor, a tall woman with kind eyes. I heard what's going on, she said gently. If they try to take Luna, you let me know. I'll witness. I'll stand up for you. Bella blinked, surprised. Why would you help me? The neighbor shrugged. Because I was in foster care once. I know what happens when people think they know best. Emotion twisted in Bella's chest, relief, gratitude, a deep ache. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone in this fight. The next day brought no peace. Bella went about her duties with Luna, but each moment felt fragile, as if it might shatter with one careless move. She could feel the walls closing in, whispers from neighbors, a cold look from the building manager, a note on her windshield telling her to mind her place. Still, she stayed. Because Luna was worth every ounce of defiance. And Eric, he was trying, even if the world refused to see his grief as anything but weakness. That night, as Bella tucked Luna into bed, the little girl asked, "Will they take me away?" Bella's throat tightened. "I won't let them." "Promise?" "I promise," Bella whispered, meaning it with every fiber of her being. 2 days later, a letter arrived. Bella ripped it open with trembling hands. It was an official court summons, demanding that she testify about her undue influence on Luna. Her stomach turned to ice. This was worse than she had imagined. If she lost, she could be barred from any contact with the child she loved like her own. Eric read over her shoulder, rage flooding his face. "They're trying to destroy you," he said. "They're trying to destroy us." Bella's head spun. For all her caution, for every polite yes and quiet smile, this was still how society saw her, dangerous, overreaching, unworthy. Her hands shook as she held the letter. "They want me erased," she realized. "Because I won't stay in my place." She had a choice now, walk away and protect herself, or stand up and risk everything for a child who needed her. The weight of it made her breathless. "I'm not running," she said finally. "They'll have to drag me out." Eric nodded, eyes shining. "Then I'm with you." Bella exhaled, her courage coiling tight like a spring. Tomorrow, she would face down a system that had failed so many before her, a system designed to serve the powerful first. Tomorrow, she would show them all that love was worth fighting for, no matter who tried to define it. They told her she had no right to protect a child who wasn't hers, but Bella would not be silent. Now the fight moves to court, and one mistake could destroy everything. Tension clung to the courtroom air like damp wool. Bella sat at a polished oak table, hands folded so tightly her knuckles ached. She could feel eyes on her, the social worker who had reported her, the lawyer representing child services, a scattering of relatives from Eric's side who wouldn't even look her in the eye. Every gaze reminded her of what she was, an outsider, a woman from the wrong side of town, an employee who had dared to care too much. It felt as though the walls themselves were watching, ready to record her every slip. Her resentment simmered, raw and familiar. This was what society had taught her to expect, that her love, her courage, would be judged dangerous because of the color of her skin and the accent that still sometimes slipped through when she was afraid. The judge cleared her throat. "Ms. Morales, please tell the court why you believe you should remain in this child's life." Bella's voice caught in her throat. For a moment, the memories of every insult, every suspicious glance, flooded her mind, the customers who had questioned her honesty at a register, the landlord who'd threatened to raise her rent because he assumed she had no one to fight for her, the teacher who'd told her she wasn't smart enough to apply to college. They were all here, echoing in the silence of the courtroom. She swallowed. Then, steady as she could manage, she began. "I love Luna," she said. "Not because I'm paid to. But because she deserves someone who sees her, every part of her, even the parts that hurt. When she cries, she comes to me because she knows I will not walk away." The lawyer for child services spoke next, his tone clipped and cold. "But you are not family, Ms. Morales. Don't you think it's confusing for a child to be so attached to someone with no legal ties?" Bella flinched at the words, a familiar sting. Not family. How many times had she been made to feel like a guest in her own country? How many times had she been told she didn't belong, even when her roots went as deep as anyone else's? She drew a breath. "Family," she said firmly, "isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you're scared. It's about who stays when everyone else leaves." Eric reached over, squeezing her hand. That small gesture gave her courage to keep speaking. "Luna lost her mother," Bella continued, voice cracking, "and I refuse to let her lose her sense of safety, too. I will not let her think love disappears when life gets hard." Murmurs rustled through the gallery. Bella kept her head high, refusing to shrink. She had fought too long, too hard, to be small now. The judge leaned forward. "Do you understand what you are risking? If I rule against you, Ms. Morales, you could be barred from any future child care work. You could lose your chance at steady employment." Bella's mouth went dry. The threat was real. No income, no way to help her family, no way to keep her younger brother in school. But the alternative was worse, to betray Luna, to let her slip away into a system that had failed too many kids who looked like them. "I understand," she answered. "And I'm still here." The judge paused, studying her, then turned to Eric. "Mr. Davenport, do you believe Ms. Morales is acting in your daughter's best interest?" Eric's voice was clear and unshakable. "Yes, Your Honor. She's the only one who truly has." For a moment, a flicker of something, respect, maybe, crossed the judge's face. Bella held on to that tiny shift like a lifeline. During a break, Bella stepped into the hallway, leaning against a cool marble pillar to steady her breath. A woman approached, dressed plainly in a thrifted blazer, hair pulled back with a simple clip. She looked nervous but determined. I just wanted to say thank you, the woman said quietly. For standing up. They took my niece away 5 years ago. We still don't know where she ended up. Bella's throat clenched. I'm so sorry. The woman shook her head. No, you're giving me hope. Don't let them make you small. Tears burned behind Bella's eyes. She nodded, unable to speak, grateful for a stranger's courage. Back inside, the testimony continued. Every question felt like a test. They asked about her immigration status, perfectly legal, but their tone made it clear they wished it wasn't. They asked about her financial situation, stable enough, yet never enough in their eyes. They asked about her relationships, her religion, whether she had ever broken a law. She felt stripped bare, every part of her life on display, like she had to earn the right to be good. But Bella did not break. She refused to. Each answer was calm, measured, honest. And inside, she let the resentment burn, not as a poison but as a fuel. She would not apologize for loving a child. She would not apologize for being Latina. She would not apologize for being human. When court adjourned for the day, she stepped outside into weak winter sunlight. Eric joined her, exhausted, his tie loosened, eyes rimmed with fatigue. You were incredible, he told her softly. She smiled, but it didn't reach her heart. They're not done. I know, he said. But neither are we. As they turned toward the parking garage, a group of reporters swarmed them. Microphones thrust forward. Ms. Morales. Why fight for a child who isn't yours? Eric, is this an affair? Do you think the child will be traumatized? Bella froze, overwhelmed. The question stabbed at her, cruel and hungry. Eric stepped forward, shielding her. No comment, he snapped, guiding her through the crush. They reached his car, slammed the doors, breathing hard. Bella pressed her head against the seat. They'll never see me the way I wish they would, she whispered. Eric rested a hand on hers. Then make them see you for who you are. Not for who they want you to be. The words steadied her. Just a little. That night, Bella tried to rest, but sleep would not come. She sat at her small kitchen table, head in her hands, the quiet pressing in. Her phone buzzed with messages, friends telling her to be careful, family reminding her to protect herself. Why are you risking so much for someone else's child? They asked. But they didn't understand. Luna was hers, in every way that mattered. The next morning, she rose before dawn, hands shaking as she dressed. She braided her hair tight, the way her mother used to before work, and looked in the mirror. The woman staring back was tired, yes, but stronger than she'd ever been. You belong here, she told herself. No matter what they say. In court, the second day began with even sharper questions. Bella described Luna's night terrors, how she'd wake screaming and couldn't be soothed except by Bella's voice. The child services attorney twisted it into something dark. So you've essentially replaced her mother, he accused. Bella's shoulders went stiff. No, she said firmly. No one can replace her mother. I'm trying to help her survive losing her. The lawyer's smile was cold. Or perhaps you're encouraging her dependency to keep your job. Fury surged through Bella. She looked the lawyer in the eye. My job is to care for her. That's what I've done. That's what I will always do. There was a hush, as though the room itself held its breath. Bella felt her pulse steady, her anger no longer shameful but righteous. She would not be made to feel guilty for giving love where it was needed. Eric's voice cut through next, steady as iron. Your Honor, I would trust Bella with my own life. That is all you need to know. The judge glanced between them, thoughtful. This court will take a short recess. We will reconvene with a decision shortly. Bella sank into her chair, trembling, Eric's hand gripping hers tight. She had never felt so vulnerable. And yet so strong. All her life, she had been told to step back, to keep quiet, to let others lead. Now she was finally taking up space, refusing to disappear. As the clock ticked toward the decision, Bella closed her eyes. She thought of Luna, of the way the child's fingers curled around hers when she was scared, of the shy laugh that had come back after weeks of nightmares. And she knew, no matter what the court decided, that was love. That was enough. When the judge returns, everything Bella has risked may come crashing down. Stay until the end to see what choice will change their lives forever. They called her just a nanny, but in this moment, Bella would become something more. What the judge says next could change every life in this courtroom. The judge's return was marked by an eerie hush. Everyone sat straighter as she lifted the sheet of paper from the bench, the weight of her words pressing on every chest. Bella felt Luna's tiny hand slip into hers, warm and trembling, even before the decision was read. After consideration, the judge began, her voice even but edged with humanity. This court recognizes the extraordinary bond between Ms. Morales and the child. Removing her now would pose greater harm than any perceived boundary crossed. Bella gasped, the breath catching in her throat. Hope surged, fierce and trembling. Therefore, the judge continued, I grant Ms. Morales continued supervised guardianship while Mr. Davenport regains stability. This is not a permanent arrangement, but one that acknowledges the child's right to feel safe. Tears slid down Bella's cheeks before she could stop them. Eric squeezed her hand, eyes shining, relief breaking across his exhausted features. The gallery murmured, some voices doubtful, others approving. Bella barely heard. All she could focus on was Luna, who leaned closer and whispered, You're still here. I'm still here, Bella whispered back, pressing a kiss to the girl's forehead. They left the courthouse to the blinding afternoon sun, a world that looked the same but felt entirely changed. Reporters tried to close in again, but this time Eric stood taller, shielding Bella with his presence, his voice calm but commanding, no comment. Respect our privacy. Bella watched him with quiet gratitude, surprised by how natural it seemed for him to defend her now. Just weeks ago, he'd been another client, powerful, distant, unreachable. Now, he was something closer to an ally, maybe even a friend. As they guided Luna into the car, Bella looked back at the courthouse steps. She saw another woman, dark-haired, weary, holding a child's hand. Their eyes met for a moment, sharing a silent understanding. In this city, in this system, children slipped through too many cracks, and it was so often women like them who tried to patch the holes, stitch by painful stitch. Back at Eric's apartment, Luna finally fell asleep on the couch, exhaustion catching up with her. Bella sat nearby, feeling the day's weight settle into her bones. Eric poured them both tea, something gentle in his movements. He hesitated, then sat across from her, his hands restless against the porcelain cup. Bella, he began, voice rough, I don't know how to say this without sounding foolish. But, thank you. For fighting. For her. For me. She looked into his eyes, searching for a motive, but saw only sincerity. Her chest tightened. She's worth it, she answered. And so are you. His eyes filled, but he didn't look away. Do you ever regret it? Getting involved? Bella thought of every time someone told her to stay silent, to stay in her place. Of how even now, people would doubt her, question her intentions, look down on her because of the language she first learned, the skin she wore. A bitter taste rose in her throat. I regret, she said carefully, that this world makes it so hard for someone like me to do what's right. That people see my face, my name, and assume I'm dangerous or unworthy. I hate that. But Luna? Never. Eric nodded, pain crossing his features. They did the same to my wife, you know. She was mixed, black and Korean. There were always people who thought she didn't belong, that she was lucky to have me. Bella's heart clenched. Lucky, she echoed, voice sharp. As if love should feel like a favor. Exactly. Eric let out a humorless laugh. She would have liked you. Bella's eyes burned. I wish I'd met her. Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. There was something healing in it, an unspoken agreement that they were on the same side now. The days that followed were a slow return to something like peace. Bella stayed with Luna after school, helped her build routines, listened to her nightmares, and walked with her through the small steps of healing. Eric did the same, bit by bit, letting himself be vulnerable, telling stories about Luna's mother, sharing memories he had locked away. Still, society was never far behind. Bella could feel its judgment like a draft under a closed door. Neighbors whispered. An older woman at the grocery store scowled when she saw Luna hug Bella tightly. Someone posted an anonymous note through Eric's mailbox, "Nannies don't get to play mommy." Each reminder hurt. But Bella refused to let the resentment drown her. She poured it instead into protecting Luna, into showing her what safety really looked like. One evening, as they walked home from a park, Luna asked quietly, "Will you leave me?" Bella stopped in her tracks. "Never," she said, voice firm, even as tears pricked at her eyes. "I will always find you. No matter where you are." Luna smiled, a small, hopeful thing, and slipped her tiny hand into Bella's. In that simple gesture, Bella found her reason to keep going. Weeks later, they gathered again before the judge for a follow-up review. Bella felt stronger this time. She had learned to stand taller, even under scrutiny. She answered questions about Luna's routines, her progress, her sense of security. The judge listened, nodded, and this time, even smiled. "You've given this child a sense of home again," the judge said gently. "And that is no small thing." Bella swallowed a sob, fighting to stay composed. "Thank you." As they left the courthouse that final day, Bella looked up at the city skyline. She thought of every time someone had tried to shrink her, to box her in, to limit her dreams. And she thought of how far she had come, from a daughter of immigrant workers to a woman who refused to look away from a child in need. Her resentment was still there, a scar that might never fade. But she realized it didn't have to rule her. She could choose to rise, to keep loving, to keep protecting. And maybe, just maybe, she could teach Luna to do the same. Some stories are bigger than one ending. If Bella's courage moved you, share her story. Subscribe, and help more voices be heard. Because every child deserves someone who stays.